Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. It is Mike Davis. He, of course, the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Mike, this is the best, I think, background shot we've ever had. What is that, a green screen?
I'm in front of the Supreme Court of the United States today, and we're in Washington, D.C. at the end of June. So it feels like the swamp is boiling.
No, I'll bet. No, that's a beautiful shot behind you. Hopefully the court still means something. You know, it's funny, on social media the other day, they actually were alleging that the shots of the fencing in front of the court were from 2 or 3 years ago. I see it behind you. Is the whole court fenced off?
No, it's actually there's not the normal riot fence or January 6th fence or whatever fence they put up around the Capitol to keep Republicans off the Capitol grounds. They just have the normal police barricades around the Supreme Court.
I got you. It's a beautiful building. Does the Supreme Court mean what it still should mean, Mike? And I asked that because yesterday we saw a stupid ruling where the government can still collude with social media, basically, and censor people like you and me. The Supreme Court doesn't appear to have the same weight it used to. Am I wrong about that?
Well, I think a lot of people are overreading yesterday's ruling. I think
Okay.
it was a bad ruling, and I think the dissent got it right with Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, and my former boss, Justice Gorsuch, where you can't have the government colluding with trillion-dollar big tech monopolists who get antitrust amnesty and Section 30 immunity and all these government grants, and then these big tech monopolists say, how high do you want us to jump when the Biden administration, their misinformation and disinformation weirdos, tell
Yes.
them to censor, silence, deplatform, and cancel conservatives. But remember, I think people need to step back and understand the ruling yesterday was not as bad as people think. They tried to kick the case on standing, and it was with an injunction in standing. This is going to be fought another day.
And if I know Andrew Bailey well, and I do, in Missouri, the attorney general, he's not going to stop. He's going to keep on bringing this because this collusion just doesn't make any sense. Either the platforms are an arm of the government, therefore they can't restrict our First Amendment, or they're not. They've got to make that decision. Either the government can tell them, take it down, call it misinformation, or hide it, or they can't. And I hate that they didn't make a solid ruling in that. This was all about standing. They kept on doing standing in 2020 when people would challenge, election results. So that's what this is. It's about standing. So what does Bailey have to do?
Yeah.
Bring it back and say, of course we have standing. Look how it harms my people in Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, it was a judicial dodge by
Okay.
the Supreme Court that they kicked this thing on standing, and it was disappointing, very disappointing, because the Supreme Court justices failed to do their jobs, which is to protect American citizens from the government. And if you're going to come up with cute little legal ways to not do your job, then you're not a real judge. So I hope these justices feel the blowback from their terrible ruling, 6-3 ruling, and they don't do this in the future when other cases come along.
Coming to us right in front of the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C., it's Mike Davis, founder, president, Article 3 Project. Go support everything they do, article3project.org right now, and it's article, the number 3, project.org. Let's talk about a couple of justices. Alito's wife, I guess, flew the flag upside down, which is her right, and you can fly any flag you want. The First Amendment applies to Supreme Court justices too, but he should recuse, and he should leave, and he should be gone. Clarence Thomas accepted a gift or two, like every justice ever has. He should be gone, he should recuse, yet Ketanji Brown Jackson doesn't know what a woman is. Mike, the left, I think, doth protest too much when it comes to them going after these conservative justices. You agree?
I do, and if Justice Alito or Justice Thomas or any of these other conservative justices must recuse, why hasn't the Biden Justice Department sent a motion into the court asking for their recusal? And the answer is because the Biden Justice Department would know such a motion is legally frivolous and would get them sanctioned. This is politics. Justice Alito's wife flies many flags. She flew the same Appeal to America flag, Appeal to Heaven flag that George Washington flew 250 years ago. And she flew an upside down American distress flag because her crazy neighbor got into a fight with her, had an F the F word sign near a bus stop in their neighborhood. And then when Mrs. Alito confronted the neighbor about this, they called her the C word. And that's
Wow.
why she flew her distress flag upside down. It had nothing to do with January 6th. And it just shows the desperation by these Biden supporters on the left.
Absolutely right. And again, no matter why she flew it, she has the right to fly it. And you know, the tolerant and accepting left that will burn the flag and stomp on it and scream, "I am Hamas," doesn't want somebody to fly the American flag upside down for distress. It blows my mind. I think they think we're stupid. Thank God we're not, or at least you're not. It's Mike Davis, article3project.org. I've got to ask you about Merrick Garland and what Anna Paulina Luna had to say yesterday. And she's right in that the House does have that ability to hold somebody in contempt and have the sergeant at arms take him in handcuffs and put him in the jail right there in the House of Representatives. Something's supposed to happen by tomorrow morning on that, Mike. Is something going to happen with that?
Well, the House of Representatives absolutely should hold Biden Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress and order the House Sergeant at Arms to arrest him and put him in the Capitol jail until Merrick Garland complies with a congressional subpoena for those audio recordings of Special Counsel Rob Hur's conversation with Joe Biden. Here's the issue. The Biden Justice Department, the Biden White House, turned over the transcripts of that conversation between her and President Biden. So how the heck would the audio recording be subject to executive privilege? This is a legally frivolous argument by Joe Biden and Merrick Garland because they don't want the American people to get their hands on these tapes to see how corrupt and incompetent Joe Biden is. This is a political cover-up, and this is the same Joe Biden and Merrick Garland who waived President Trump's claim of constitutional privilege going back 250 years to George Washington to go after Peter Navarro and throw him in prison, right. And they're going after Steve Bannon and putting him in prison. So you can't put two of Trump's top aides in prison after their legitimate claims of constitutional executive privilege and then ignore a congressional subpoena and make a bogus claim of executive privilege and then essentially write yourself a get out of jail free card at the Justice Department. So if the Justice Department's not going to do its job and pursue these contempt charges against Merrick Garland, the House of Representatives absolutely must do it. This is about the separation of powers and protecting the House's constitutional duty of oversight.
A couple of things jumped out at me yesterday when Anna Paulina Luna made the announcement. She said, one, we just want you to bring them here so we can hear them. She didn't even say turn them over. She said, bring them here so that we can hear them in our committee. And if you don't, and we don't do anything about it by Friday morning, then there is no separation of power. There is no separate but equal, in the checks and balances system in the three branches. In fact, that's over. The DOJ and the executive can do anything they want. And Mike, that would mean tyranny, would it not?
It would. When the Attorney General of the United States is selectively enforcing our contempt laws to go after his boss's political enemy and allies of his political enemy and protecting his boss and his friends, that's not how our system works. And it's unacceptable. And this is why House Republicans must vote to hold Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress, inherent contempt of Congress, and order the Sergeant at Arms to go fetch him and put him in a cell until he turns over these tapes.
And it should be very simple. And you're right about executive privilege. They had to claim that for the entire thing. They didn't. They gave the transcripts up. Now we're hearing word that the transcripts were altered a bit. And all we have to do is we listen. We want to trust but verify. We want to actually hear what they said. And we know, Mike, come on. You and I know. You and I aren't dumb. Those watching and listening aren't dumb. Biden's going to be falling asleep. He's going to be stuttering. He's going to be talking about things that he wasn't asked about. We'll hear that he brought up Bo, and it wasn't her bringing up Bo. That's really the story here, right? They're afraid that the American people will hear how gone this guy is.
Yeah, not only will they hear how gone he is, they're going to hear that Joe Biden intentionally shared stolen classified material with his ghostwriter for a book for which Joe Biden got $8 million. So Joe Biden committed real espionage. He had stolen classified records that he sold out to his ghostwriter for a book where he's making millions. Joe Biden should be in prison for espionage. Merrick Garland should be in prison for contempt of Congress and obstruction of justice.
Mike Davis, article3project.org. Go there. He's in front of the beautiful Supreme Court building. I just love that shot, Mike. It's awesome. Thank you for doing it. Let's talk about the gag order out of New York. So if I have it right, Mershon, the Biden donor, and whose daughter made millions of dollars off that trial, and Alvin Bragg, who ran to get Trump, Mershon has decided you can't talk about people who work for the court. So in other words, you can't talk about Mershon, you can't talk about Alvin Bragg, you can't talk about the families of the people that work for the court, even though the verdict has already been rendered. Mike, is this unprecedented? And do you think Trump will break the gag order tonight?
It is clearly unconstitutional and un-American to gag a criminal defendant. If anyone on the planet must have the constitutional rights to speak out against the judge, the prosecutor, the investigators, the stabs, the witnesses, their biases, the process, it is a criminal defendant. They have turned the Constitution on its head by gagging a criminal defendant, because guess what? They don't want President Trump talking about how Judge Juan Mershon is partisan and corrupt and rigged this process, because his adult daughter, Lauren Mershon, is raising millions of dollars off of this unprecedented criminal prosecution of a former president and likely future president. That requires Judge Mershon's recusal under New York statute. That's just not Mike Davis saying that. A former federal Clinton judge said this on Caitlin Collins' show on April 5th on CNN. How did Judge Mershon respond? He imposed this illegal, unconstitutional, un-American gag order on Trump, so he can't mention Lauren Mershon and Judge Juan Mershon's corruption, or Trump goes to jail. This is a criminal conspiracy by these Biden Democrat prosecutors and judges and other operatives to violate President Trump's civil rights. And come January 20th, 2025, they must face a criminal probe from the Trump 47 Justice Department, and there must be severe legal, political, and financial consequences, because they have crossed the Rubicon. They are destroying our country, and the only way this ends is if there are severe consequences.
It's Mike Davis coming to us from the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. So if you were to advise Trump, and by the way, Mike, you kind of do. Whatever you truth, he retruths, and he likes what you're laying down, which is smart of him. If you were to advise him, would you say break the gag order and dare them to arrest you and make sure you say what you need to say, or look at the camera and say, I'd like to respond, but I'm gagged by a Biden supporter? I mean, what would you tell him to do?
Well, as a lawyer, I can't tell him to break the law, but if I were in Trump's shoes, if I were on that stand, I would say to Judge Mershon, go to hell. There is no chance you're going to gag me. I'm going to speak the truth at this presidential debate. And if you want to put me in prison, I will file a habeas petition immediately and get you smacked down. And then when I'm back in office on January 20th, 2025, I'm going to put your corrupt ass in jail, Judge Juan Mershon.
It is Mike Davis. I think that's exactly what I would do as well. I think that you just say what you need to say, and I think you call him out by name, and there's no way he can really do something. I've been covering court cases for a long time, but as you know, I'm not a lawyer. My mom thinks I could be, but I've been covering court cases a long time. I've never seen a gag order last past the verdict. Have you?
No, I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Look, if Trump were actually tampering with witnesses or otherwise obstructing justice, you can charge him with those crimes. This is an illegal prior restraint on his First Amendment right. It is rights. It is clearly, blatantly unconstitutional. It is a criminal violation of our federal civil rights statutes, 18 USC Section 241, 18 USC Section 242. This is a criminal conspiracy against rights. And there, again, must be severe legal, political, and financial consequences for Judge Mershon, Lauren Mershon, Alvin Bragg, Matthew Colangelo, Judge Tanya Shutkin, Jay Bratz, all of these Biden, Jonathan Sue, Fannie Willis, Tish James, Nathan Wade, all of these Biden Democrat prosecutors and judges and witnesses and other operatives who are clearly colluding to violate President Trump's civil rights and interfere in the election. There must be consequences.
All of what you just said is verifiably true. All of these people, I mean, we know Nathan Wade spent time at the White House. Colangelo came from the DOJ. We know all this stuff is incestuous and it's all connected. But by itself, let me just ask, I think I've asked you this before, but by itself, is it illegal? Is it against federal elections law to go, or even state elections law, to say I'm going to be the AG because I want to get Trump? Is it okay to run if you're Alvin Bragg on Soros money saying, get me in there because I want to get Trump? Can you target one American citizen and say, if you give me the job, if you give me the win in this election, I'm going to get that person for you? Is that illegal or not?
It's unethical to do that. You're supposed to go in. Justice is supposed to be blind. They're not supposed to be partisan hacks on a mission. And think about what they're doing with the special counsel. They essentially have an unlimited budget to go after Trump. Alvin Bragg, Chris James, Fani Willis, these dumb Democrat prosecutors and these Democrat hellholes of New York, DC, and Atlanta, they're ignoring real crimes while they go after Trump, his top aides like Peter Navarro, who's sitting in prison now, like Steve Bannon, who's going to prison, his attorneys like Jeff Clark and John Eastman, Trump supporters on January 6th, parents outraged by gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms, Christians, including a 75-year-old Christian who's in prison right now for praying at abortion clinics while they give, this Biden Justice Department gives amnesty to the Biden family, Joe Biden, James Biden, Hunter Biden, every scumbag Biden, except for the granddaughter, who they won't acknowledge, has taken over $20 million from China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. They give amnesty to BLM, Antifa, Hamas, abortion industry activists, trans terrorists. There is going to be a reckoning starting on January 20th, 2025.
And there needs to be. It's Mike Davis, article3project.org, article3project.org. Mike, literally 20 seconds. Predict what's going to happen tonight. I think Joe Biden's going to lose his place and probably get angry. I hope that Trump keeps his cool. He'll come out looking great. What do you think?
Man, for as much as CNN's carrying Joe Biden's water for this debate, they're going to have to help him change his diaper on the debate stage. I mean, they are the best nursing home attendees I've ever seen.
Yes. Well, listen, we'll watch it intently tonight, and we'll talk soon thereafter. Mike, thanks for making time from the Supreme Court today. It's Mike Davis. Go to article3project.org. Mike, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, brother. We're back after this. Stay right here.